Well, week one was kind of sick, EJ. Theme of the week, coaching malpractice. There was a lot of coaching malpractice going on, which we expect. Teams are sloppy in the first week of the season, but even by week one standards, it was rough for some teams. Even in the best game of the week, Bills-Ravens, we had some inexcusable coaching malpractice. So we're going to go through the absolute cinema that was Sunday Night Football. We're going to go through a truly stellar undercard, right, with Jets and Steelers. That was a great game. We had whatever the hell happened in the Titans-Broncos game that we have to address. The Dolphins imploding. I don't even think we're going to get to Texans-Rams today, but those were the two teams that gave up the most pressure in the entire league in week one, and they played against each other. And it was like mirror images clashing. Excellent, excellent week of football, but also some things that really pissed me off. EJ, before we get to it, how are you?
I'm great. Week one was everything it was supposed to be, and I'm really glad I led with Bills-Ravens in our preview episode because that lived up to every possible billing and then more. Like, we couldn't have even predicted what that game really became in the end, and we will talk about it because we can't not talk about it. But yeah, we were going to leave that one and just talk about everything else, but nope, they made sure that we can't do that.
Yeah, we kind of got to hit that first, so we'll do that on the other side of the intro. Neil, please roll it. Welcome to the Bootleg Football Podcast. I'm Brett Coleman. That's EJ Snyder. We have a lot to go over today, so I'm going to keep this intro as brief as humanly possible. We are now in the regular season, so here's our typical release cadence this year, so you can kind of plan your week around it. We have our Tuesday recaps where we break down, usually we take Sunday night and Monday morning to go through film and look at stats and compile as many notes as we can for these breakdown episodes. They come out on Tuesdays. We have our Thursday public preview where we look at somewhere between 3 to 6 games that we find interesting. Usually it's for the teams that we don't get to hit in the recap because we want to talk about as many teams every week as possible. And then we have our Friday additional bonus preview episodes for the incoming week that go up on the Patreon. Those are for all of our lovely patrons that keep this show afloat. And also, side note, something we're bringing back this year for older bootleggers that have been around for a while. Bootleg Shot of the Week is back, and you guys get to vote on that on a public Patreon poll. You don't have to be a patron to vote on it, but the poll is hosted on Patreon because it's just easier to do there. So we're going to link that in the description as well as the comments. We have 4 Shot of the Week nominees for you guys to vote on. And then in the Thursday show, we do our Bootleg Shot of the Week. EJ, my friend, with all the gotta do's out of the way, shall we start with the game that everybody wants us to start with? Buffalo, Baltimore.
We shall, but we have one more got to do. And it's just a welcome to all the new people. We picked up a lot of new subscribers over the summer with the summer preview series. Obviously, that's a little bit different content, but this is the bread and butter. This is what we did. That's what we lifted all them weights for, is to talk about teams during the regular season and see how they're doing. So welcome to all of you. Thanks for riding along with us. We hope you enjoy it. And yeah, we're going to start off with the cherry on top of the Sunday, Bills-Ravens, which turned into an absolute classic.
Well, I don't think the Bills lifted all them weights in the offseason, judging by how they played the run. This is a topic that I feel like a broken record on. We've been talking about this for years.
Yeah,
like
3 years.
3-4 years in a row of like Bills interior defensive line cannot stop the run. They get blown off the ball. You know, there was like a little time period when Daquan was still healthy and in his prime where it's okay, that's like the one nose they can rely on. And it was brutal, like absolutely brutal. Like we saw some snaps from Deion Walker last night, who we still have high hopes from because he's a talented kid. But like, you know, that huge screen to Zay outside where they released Stanley and they released Linderbaum and then Voorhees. You remember that episode of Game of Thrones, The Viper in the Mountain, where he was just kind of dancing around the mountain and the mountain couldn't hit him? That was Voorhees against Deion Walker on that play. Like he just easily stepped in front of him, walled him off, and Walker was like, what the hell's happening? There's a screen? What? And then like all the Bills were, like the linebackers were basically in the tunnel. Like there was nobody around. So between them getting blown off the ball, them having no idea how to handle the motions, no idea how to handle the screens, like everybody looked lost, everybody looked slow, everybody looked weak. Like that was a horrifically bad Bills defensive performance. And yet, Josh Allen. This is a team that they had a 0.9% chance of winning with 4:48 left in the fourth quarter. And I'm really happy I didn't turn the game off, because maybe in like November, if we get to that point, maybe I would have been like, all right, I got to go to bed, or I got to start watching film and get ready for the show. But I was like, football's back. This is Josh. This is Lamar. I'm going to enjoy it. Like, even if this is turning into a blowout, like that last Henry run, I was like, all right, their back is broken. This is done. I literally tweeted out, their back is broken. And I was like, but it's football. Like, I've been waiting for this for months. I'm going to savor it. I'm going to leave it on. And then, like, just weird play after weird play kept happening. I was like, hold on, it's a one-possession game. Hold on. Whoa. And it got out of hand real quick, EJ. And then you look up and it's 41-40. And I just sat there shell-shocked. I was like, this defense was so bad. McDermott had such a bad night. And you still came out with the win. I mean, half the stadium was empty. Mm-hmm. And they still came out with the win. I was flabbergasted at how a team that performed that poorly still won the game, because their quarterback is just that damn good.
I know you have this too, because we've both watched a lot of football over our lifetime, but you have that feeling in the fourth quarter, like, yeah, I should turn this off. And then you're like, but I don't know. It's like 2 scores. But even last night, that was not. So I was like making notes on my phone, had the game on, it was in front of me. I was like, man, they really deserve this loss. They have gotten gashed time and again. They haven't been able to stop them. And then suddenly you're like, they're hanging around, but look, there's 4 minutes left. Forget it. And you get the tip pass for the touchdown. And you're like, wait, what? What just happened? Like, and your brain's automatically, I know yours does the same thing, is tilting towards, well, now they get this. No, it's still too much.
Yeah, like, you look at the timeouts, you look at the clock, right, and you're like, wait a minute, it's 8. It's a possession.
Yeah, you're doing the calculus. You're like, all the Ravens have to do is salt it away, right? And so the tip pass was like, and the hair on the back of your neck goes up and your ears prick up a little bit. You put the phone down and you're like, no. And you keep going. And then, like, immediately, Derrick Henry fumbles. And you're like, okay, everything off. It's officially now weird. The whole reason we love sports is because you can't analyze it down to the last fiber. We all try. There's a lot of great numbers and stats and whatever, but this is still a very human game. And sometimes it's magical. And last night, that was magic. The second play was like, hold up. No way. Like, again, to your point, 0.09% chance of that happening. Like, it's not going to happen. In games like that, over 2,000 games, 2,300 games since the turn of the century, since 2000, 3 teams have won in that situation. 3 and 2,300. Now it's 4 and 2,300. That's magic. That's a miracle. Whatever you want to call it. It's amazing. It shouldn't have happened by all accounts. Baltimore had many reasons not to make it happen. Buffalo shouldn't have had the chance to make it happen. But it did happen. And that's why we love sports, is because you can't predict that stuff. And yeah, I'm glad I didn't turn it off, because not going to forget that one anytime soon. That was an absolute classic. Saw so many people saying, can you have a game of the year in week 1? Until further notice,
yeah, probably.
That's game of the year.
And I will say, and I do deeply apologize to the Ravens fans that are they're going through it today, right?
100%.
I don't mean this to sound as dickish as it is. Part of the reason I left the game on is because I was like, how are they going to blow it? Like, how are they going to mess this up? Because this team, historically, like even just in the last 5 years, Ben Solak put out a tweet. The Ravens have now lost 8 games since the 2021 season. So 4 years and 1 week in which they at one point had a win probability of at least 90%. That's 2 a year. 2 wins a year that they blow. So it's just, yeah, he also followed it up, by the way, by saying that's 3 more than the next closest team.
Yeah.
This is just something that John Harbaugh does. Like he unfortunately will find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. And he did that in this game with the punt. Like you have a defense that at that point had given up 38 points. They were completely gassed. Like the Ravens defense was bad all night too. Like it wasn't just the Bills defense that was bad. The Ravens defense was bad too. Obviously it occurred more in bunches, but like I still had deep reservations about what I had seen on the field. They lost Khalil Shakir a couple times. Like James Cook was gashing him. You know, Josh was Josh. Like I was like, I didn't feel good about punting there when Josh really had heated up in the last 4 or 5 minutes of game clock. Like you just weren't stopping him, just like the Bills weren't stopping Lamar. And when you have an MVP caliber quarterback and a first ballot Hall of Fame running back, you need 3 yards. Like I don't care if you're on your own 40-yard line. Like, I really don't care. Like, I would rather put my faith in those two to get me 3 yards than put my faith in this defense that had already given up 38 to stop Josh Allen. So that decision to punt, I almost felt like they were going to lose immediately the second I saw they were punting. I was like, there's no way. Like, there's absolutely no way he's doing this. Like, I thought maybe, I don't even know if they still had timeouts left, but I was like, you got to call a timeout. Like, somebody's got to, like, talk him out of doing this. And they, once the ball came off his foot, I was like, that's it. Like, that's it. Like, you just knew they were going to lose. And that's just what the Ravens do. Is like, they'll get these masterclass performances from Lamar. Happened multiple times early on in the year last year before they figured out their safety situation. You get these absolutely incredible performances from Todd Monken and Lamar and Henry in the offensive line. And then, like, whether it's game management from Harbaugh or like a disaster class from the defense, or in this case, both, like they will find a way to waste those performances. And I just, if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm like, how do I have confidence in this season whatsoever? Like, yes, they're going to win a lot of games. They're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to make a run. But like, how do I have confidence in this team winning a Super Bowl when that guy is making the go versus punt decisions late in the fourth quarter against Josh Allen? Like, I'm like already in my head thinking about the offseason storylines where we're like, so they're just going to promote Monken from within, right? Because he's the only one who's doing his job. Like, I just, God, if I'm a Ravens fan, I'm just sick to my stomach because it just happens every year.
Yeah, you're going through it. And I feel like the conventional wisdom, there is conventional wisdom and then things move. The NFL is incredibly dynamic and the conventional wisdom has changed and John Harbaugh hasn't changed with it. And that's pretty difficult. You've got Lamar, who is amazing, and no one should pin this on Lamar. This is ridiculous. He put up 40-plus points. He had a 98th percentile EPA per play. Like, he did everything right. But you've got to put the ball in his hands and say, go win it, not we're not going to lose it. Conventional wisdom has changed, and Harbaugh hasn't changed with it, and this is what you have to do now versus the mutants, versus the Mahomes and the Allenses and the Lamars for the most part. If you have Lamar, if you have that luxury, go put a stake in their heart. Don't punt it and say we'll rely on the defense, because I would rather give it to Lamar, let him try and make the first down, and then rely on the defense, because the argument's kind of the same. It's some amount of yardage, but is it really different with Josh when he's in that state? Do you really think 30 yards is going to be a big deal to him? No.
That's 2 plays.
Right.
Literally.
Or
2
one.
plays.
It was won twice last night in the fourth quarter. So it's not the yardage. That's the old conventional wisdom. The new one is keep the ball out of their hands, because that is the only way you can stop them. Obviously, your defense hasn't stopped them all night. You just have to keep them from having the ball in their hands, and you have the ability to do that, and you gave it away. You handed it back to them. Yes, your chances were pretty good, but like you had that little itch that said, they just put the nail in the coffin. Like, if it was ever going to happen, it's going to happen now because you made that decision.
I think a good comp in the same week was the Chiefs-Chargers game, right, where it's 3rd and 14. I'm looking at the exact situation right now. 3rd and 14, 2 minutes and 14 seconds left. It's a 1-possession game. the conservative play would be like, all right, let me just call a run here and then we'll punt it away and we'll trust our defense. Because the defense, unlike Baltimore, actually had been playing well for the Chargers.
Right.
They actually had been affecting Mahomes a lot. And yet, Justin Herbert, Harbaugh trusted him. Like, go get me
the other Harbaugh
14 yards. And the other Harbaugh, right? And Justin got him 19 and iced the game. And that was it.
Correct.
And so it's like you're telling me Herbert can convert a 3rd and 14 and we don't trust Lamar to convert a 4th and 3 when they both had aliens on the other side they didn't want to give the ball back to. And I get it, like 4th down decisions are different than 3rd down, but like in that situation, not really. Like it's not about the down and distance. It's not about the yardage, to your point. It's about like, I just don't want that guy to have the ball. And we're paying our quarterback $50 to $60 million a year. We pay him to get 3 yards. So let's let the guy get 3 yards. It's just bad. It's just bad. And if I'm a Ravens fan, I understand why they are where they are with the John Harbaugh discourse. We have a lot more Bills and Ravens to talk about throughout the season, so we're not going to make the entire episode about this game, but we had to hit it off the top because it was insane. We have a whole bunch of other teams we want to hit today, but before we do, I want to show our bootleg shot of the nominees. So when you guys go and vote in our poll on the Patreon, again, it's a public poll. Anybody can vote on it. You don't have to be a patron. But when you guys go vote in the poll, you'll actually see the hits we're talking about. So first hit, first nominee for the first bootleg shot of the week of the season. Will Johnson, Cardinals mentioned here in week 1. 4th quarter, 9 minutes to go. They tried a little screen. Will Johnson read it beautifully. And by the way, he had a whale of a game too. I think he had like 3 passes defense. Yeah. Came downhill, smacked the receiver, laid an excellent hit. Again, this is on screen for the YouTube version of the show. For the podcast version, you'll have to go to the Patreon to look at it. Second nominee, Jalen Ramsey, game-winning PBU in his first game as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Literally just playing as a flat corner in cover 2 late in the game. They got pressure on Fields, who we will talk about in a second. Tried to escape, hit Garrett Wilson in the flat. Ramsey just triggered on it, got an excellent game-winning PBU, and laid a pretty good lick on Garrett Wilson. Cam Scatterbo, we had to throw this one in there. This is like the most impressive 7-yard gain you're going to see the entire week, discarding not 1, but 2 Commanders defenders, the ultimate get off me Cam Scatterbo play. And then finally, from this same game, a special teams shot nominee, Nick Bellore, running down on punt cover. I can't remember who the returner was, but they got absolutely knocked into the next dimension by Nick Bellore on this play. And that was actually the first one I sent to you of the day. I was like, I feel like we have to bring back shot of the week if this is the hits we're going to get. So again, all 4 of those nominees are available to vote on over on the Patreon. Whoever wins, we will present them in our Thursday preview show. Now, getting to the next recap. This one's structured a little bit differently than last season in the sense that not all of our points are just going to be about specific games. Sometimes it's about overall themes. Sometimes it's about trends that we saw across the league. And sometimes it is literally just about one team in a game that we need to dissect and sometimes flambe in front of all of you, i.e. Miami. So I'll start off here. I did mention the Steelers-Jets game as one of the better games of the weekend, so I kind of want to begin with that one. Because, man, EJ, Justin Fields might be the first quarterback in NFL history to save his career by going to the Jets. He was phenomenal, truly phenomenal in this game. Not one single off-target incompletion the entire day, which I don't know if Fields has ever done that in any of his starts before. You know, not pitching a perfect game, but like not missing ever. The Steelers also had the 3rd highest blitz rate of the entire league, at least as of halfway through Sunday Night Football when I pulled this stat. 3rd highest blitz rate of the entire league this week. And yet, against the blitz, Fields had a 10.3 yards per attempt and a 121.2 passer rating against blitzes. He was incredible. Navigated the pocket really well, made good decisions, used a lot of his pre-snap cues. Like they were really, really diligent about using motion and alignment to to discern A, what coverage the Steelers were in, and B, if they were bringing pressure. Fields handled all of that pre-snap, and he did so brilliantly. He got out of some sacks that I just can't believe he did. I mean, even by Field standards, I was like, wow, that's special movement. I was over the moon, truly, with his performance. It looked like a brand new quarterback, and if Tanner Engstrand is getting this Justin Fields this season, my outlook for this team has wildly swung to the positive in a span of 24 hours.
I'm going to have to hold my applause a little bit, not because the performance wasn't amazing. The performance was amazing, but it's week 1, and I feel like it's a rope-a-dope at this point because all preseason, Justin Fields looked tremendously shaky. His accuracy was not great. His pocket navigation was not good at all. His reads, it looked rough. And he comes out in week 1 and literally looks like, haha, fooled you. Plays extremely competent, composed, effective football, like always making the right decision. To your point, throws on time and accurate. Pocket navigation was exceptional. Now, we think about his escapability. That's one thing. We've seen plenty of that. And it's not like Justin Fields hasn't had good games, but I don't think I've ever seen a game where he was as complete as a quarterback as he was yesterday. And I'm like, hold on, man. For like 2.5 months, you looked fragile. You looked really, really shaky. And to come out against a very good defense in terms of pass rush and look that composed, that smooth, make all the right decisions, keep your team in it and on it in the way that he did, I'm like, is that real? Or is that just week 1 varnish and shine that's going to fade? I don't know. I hope for all Jets fans, to be clear, that it continues. I have been a Justin Fields fan since he was drafted. He has not lived up to my expectations. There is so much potential in his game as a player, just as a football player. Yesterday, we saw almost all of it harnessed in the right direction. And yeah, you're right. If Tanner Engstrand gets that all season long, the Jets are going to be a problem.
And here's another fun little note, because one of the other things that we were frustrated with Justin when he was in Chicago, less so in Pittsburgh. Like he was better in Pittsburgh than he was in Chicago. And like you kind of saw that little jump where you're like, okay, there might be something there. He's going to get another shot. And then he got the shot with the Jets. But, going back to his time with the Bears, when he was kept clean, he still had this kind of scattershot nature. He still just took a long time. He was very much like a see it, throw it kind of quarterback. If you're looking at yesterday, when he was kept clean, everything was on time, everything was on target. He had an 11.2 yards per attempt, and this was 16 dropbacks where he had no pressure, by the way. 11.2 yards per attempt and a 135.6 passer rating. So not only was he excellent against the blitz, but when he was kept clean and he could just execute the offense and be in structure, like he was phenomenal. So it was one of those, like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you blitz or not blitz for the Steelers defense, like they had no real answer. And that was why before the Sunday game, when the Ravens went nuts, the Jets led the NFL in yards per play in week 1. They were tied at 6. And then the Ravens came in at like 8 something. And I was like, Jesus Christ, guys. So he was great. I also want to take a moment. Armand Membo.
Hell yes.
Yeah. That dog can hunt. Like,
yeah,
21 pass block snaps against TJ Watt, didn't give up a single pressure. Like the first explosive run of the day, he had a absolutely incredible backside cutoff. I get it. It was Loudermilk. He's not like a world beater, but still, it's a rookie in his first game. And like he's cutting off 3 techniques by himself. Joe Tippmann
at guard. Let's go.
Why was he not a guard the whole time? He was great.
His get off at guard was so good. We were fans of Tippmann at center. He was pretty average at center. He looked tremendous. Everybody's worried about AVT going down with the injury, and rightfully so. He's a great player. Tippmann comes in, you're like, well, I don't really think there's a drop-off. That's bananas. And the two of those guys, Tippmann and Membu on the right side, had multiple highlight plays together where they made serious hay in the run game. And again, if the Jets are getting that all season, just run behind the right side. There are always teams in the league that run behind one side whenever they need it. If those two guys continue to perform like that, run behind that side all season. Like, you're going to get your yards.
Well, and that's the interesting thing I want to bring up, because schematically, so this team, like we expected, because the Lions were very outside zone heavy, so we thought they were going to bring that over as well. So they were fourth in outside zone percentage in week 1 out of all teams. And when you saw the Brees run hit chart, it was left, 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 left. And so everybody's like, oh, the left side of the Jets offensive line was doing work. And it's like, well, yes, they did well, but the reason why they kept running left with Brees was because on an outside zone call, the backside, I don't want to say it's the most important part, but it kind of is, because they're the ones who are responsible for, again, cutting off the pursuit and creating those cutback lanes in the first place. The front side can only do so much. Like, when you're playing against these 5-man services from the Steelers, like, you're not going to get the front side edge. It's all about just creating a lane that you can bend up inside, or in some cases, like, really cut back and slash inside. That's the responsibility of the center, right guard, and right tackle. And Tippmann and Membu were fucking abusing these guys on their combos backside and creating all these cutback lanes in the first place. So it's like, yeah, they were running left, not because they loved the left side of the line. They were running left because the right side of their line was annihilating people and creating those cutback lanes. So like, it's almost like an oxymoron where it's like, our right side's really good, so run left, but that's just the way this scheme is set up. And I think they're just going to do it over and over and over and over again, because it just kind of kept working.
If they get the same results, they are absolutely going to do that until somebody stops it, because they looked vicious, and they are both young, good blockers. Membu, great length, really good athletic profile, showed some, again, tremendous range, but also some good power in moving people yesterday. He looked like the real deal. Jets have to be thrilled with that. You pick a guy that high and he comes out in his first game and he looks the part, like, completely, not just in flashes. That is a very good thing for a new regime starting out to say our first pick overall is doing what we want him to do.
So again, my first observation of the week was the Jets not just competent on offense, but cohesive. What do you got for your first one each?
I'm going to go the other way. Detroit, we might have a problem. Normally it's Houston, we have a problem. You can talk about Houston's problems later. I'm going to talk about what we saw of Detroit yesterday. Again, it's week 1. We're not hitting the panic meter. In our preview episode, we urged you all not to do the same thing, and we're going to resist the temptation. However, there are certain things that pop up in week 1 that are not necessarily easy fixes, and Detroit might have one of those, some of those, a bunch of those. We don't know. So last season, Detroit scored 33.1 points per game. And they're very used to putting up about 30 points a game for the last 2.5 years. And that is a very easy thing to get used to as a football team. It gives you a lot of leverage, both offensively, obviously, and defensively, because you're putting the opponent on their back foot and they have to score and try and keep up with you. With 4 minutes left to go in this game yesterday, they'd scored 6 points, 2 field goals, no touchdowns. Last time Detroit didn't score a touchdown was 2022 versus the Cowboys. And if Isaac Tesla, yes, that Isaac Tesla, doesn't make a superhuman effort in garbage time, they would have broken streak. They would have had no touchdowns. Now, going from 31 points a game to basically 6 points in meaningful time is not going to be something any defense can overcome. I don't care how good you are. If you're only going to put up 6 points in a game, that's rough. Green Bay is a very good team. They were very good last year. Their results didn't show how good they were last year. They've added Micah Parsons. I know all that. Absolutely. But they're in your division. You're going to have to play them twice a year. And if you can't manage more than 2 field goals, you're in trouble. And the offensive line is really where we need to start with this, because it has been the bedrock of this team. When Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson and everybody got there, they built and paid a very good, young, powerful, cohesive offensive line, and they lived and died off the success of that unit. Yesterday, they died because rushing success and play action have been their video game combo attack, and nobody's been able to keep up with it. Montgomery and Gibbs combined for 2.2 yards a carry yesterday. Combo platter, 2.2 yards a carry. That's not getting it done. In addition, they allowed pressure on 7 of 19 true dropbacks, or 36.8%. 4 sacks allowed. Last year, Goff took 1.9 sacks. So again, doubled that average from last year. And Goff is a very, very different quarterback. We brought up this stat multiple times throughout the summer preview series of a quarterback's rating when pressured or not pressured. Last year, Goff clean, pretty much a jugs machine, 121.6. When he was pressured, 76.4. That is one of the larger drop-offs in the league. So if you can't run to build your play action game, and you're not just getting success running over people like they had last year, again, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, it is broke now. And this team, the entire team, the offensive philosophy, the personnel, the way that it combined was built on this very effective but kind of narrow window. Like the line has to be good. We have to run block well, and we can base everything off of that. If that basis isn't there, Detroit could have a serious problem that is not an easy fix. It's not we made some mistakes in week 1 type thing. They're going to have to find that again, or else they're going to have to rejigger a lot of things, not just one thing.
The offensive line has been the spine of this offense, right? And they lost the most important vertebra of that spine, which was Frank Ragnow. And they have a massive, massive problem at center. And, you know, we kind of touched on it a little bit in the offseason Lions episode, because we're like, how are they going to replace Ragnow? And I think we recorded it like first day of camp or first week of preseason, something like that. And it was like, okay, Tate Ratledge is going to be the center. We're like, whoa, okay, converting a rookie from a guard to like, how are they going to handle protections? And then, of course, we get to week 1, and Ratledge is, oh, no, he's actually a guard. And I think it was because they were trying to figure out calling protections. And so they wanted a veteran to be the center. But, like, Glasgow is just, he's not remotely the same as Frank Ragnow, which very few centers are. But the drop-off has been so steep. Like, you saw these linebackers, you know, these Packers linebackers, whether it was Quay and, you know, especially Edge Cooper, like he was like playing with their food. Like he couldn't touch them in space. And the center, oftentimes on these outside zone runs, like he has to be the one that gets to the second level and seal off these linebackers. And he just didn't touch them. Like it was bad. He had a 26% missed block rate in the run game in this game. He had a 4% made block rate. Like, I'm sorry, you can't have a missed block rate being over 20% higher than your made block rate. Like, who can survive that? These running backs sure couldn't. If we're looking at their first and second down carries, which have been typically the bread and butter of this offense because they go under center, they run the ball, and they run play action. Like, we've been over this over and over and over again. They had 20 early down carries with these running backs, and 2 of them were successful. So, who can function that way as an offense? Like, if you don't have good center play, if you don't have good interior offensive line play, period, in this offense, you're dead in the water. I don't care how good your tackles are. Like, especially for a quarterback that lines up under center as much as Jared Goff, like, protecting against interior pressure is paramount when your quarterback's under center, because when you're in the gun, you're already starting at a depth where, like, okay, we could take a 3-step from the gun. We'll be 8 yards deep. We're at a good depth. We can get the ball out quick. Like, if you're under center, and most of our success as an offense has been under center, especially with play action, these long developing plays, like, interior pressure kills that. And also, if you're in 3rd and 7, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 11 because you can't run the ball, all of a sudden you can't do the under center play action stuff that you've relied on so much. And Goff's sitting in the gun trying not to die because Mahogany and Tate are giving up pressure. So it's like, you know, without the spine of the offense, what do they got? And I respect the defense. Like, they honestly, they did what they could. Like, the Packers offense, you know, and yes, Jordan Love had some absolutely ridiculous throws, especially early on in this game, because he's Jordan Love and he tends to do that. But like, this offense, they were just kind of trudging through the mud for a lot of this game on like a play-by-play basis. And I thought the Lions defense hung in there as well as they could, but they were getting no help from this offense whatsoever. And if you're getting no help from the offense and Jordan Love drops 4 big time throws on you in the span of 4 quarters, which is a big, like most good quarterbacks are probably like 2, per game. And he doubled that up. Like his first half was sensational. You're just going to fall behind and then you're dead. So it just felt like a perfect storm of bad for this team. And unfortunately, I don't see a way out of that cyclone of suck unless their interior offensive line suddenly gets way better. And I just don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen either. Christian Mahogany had some highlights in the run game, but he was the leakiest of their pass protectors as well. So, it's a very tough bunch of inconsistency that the Lions have not had to deal with for 2 or 3 years now, and now they have to. So we're going to see how good that new coaching staff is on the offensive side at making adjustments, because make no mistake, they have to. Third down success rate was 5 out of 15 converted. Again, fourth down help. They stayed aggressive. That was a question we had in the summer. If they were going to be as aggressive, yes, they converted 3 out of 4 fourth downs, but tough to sustain. We talked about it with Commanders as well. Like, you can't just imagine Jaden's going to continue to convert 80+% of those. You can't just imagine, if you're the Lions, that you're always going to make 75% conversion on fourth down. So they've got some things to fix, and they're not easy things to fix.
The one thing that gives me solace is I think Green Bay's defense is really good.
Yes.
So it's like maybe they're not going to face this every single week.
But you know how it is, right? You have to be built to beat the good teams. Detroit.
That's the thing. You're going to face them in January. So if you can't do it now, like, at least show me something.
What do you really got?
It's like, what, you think they're going to go away? You think the Packers aren't going to be there at the end of the road? Yeah. It's like you gotta be able to handle business against the best teams. And the Packers, to me, are one of those teams. All right. What do you got for your second point?
Sometimes, not always, and I'm going to put it in air quotes, old guys rule. The NFL is definitely a young man's game, but some folks defy it for a while, and especially in week 1 when the legs are fresh. So we get these performances from veteran NFL players, and it's fun to watch. Again, it's week 1. We're not going to over-index and say this is going to continue. And look, going old generally isn't a good strategy in the NFL. It will catch up with you over time, but some turn back the clock performances from week 1 that were, shall we say, vintage. I think that's a good word for it. Aaron Rodgers, got to start off with him, 41 years young, 22 of 30, 244, 4 TDs and no picks. There was a little bit of vintage Rodgers in there. One of the reasons I know that won't continue for the entire season, he got wrecked. He got hit a lot, and he got hit hard by that Jets defense. Will McDonald had a couple of welcomes that were not so welcoming. Matt Stafford, basically tales of his death have been exaggerated. If you listened again to offseason storylines, Matt Stafford couldn't walk and never would again. 21 of 29, 245, 1 TD and no picks. While it was not a vintage Stafford tear your arms off performance, it was good enough for the Rams to win, and pretty darn good for a guy who, again, 2 weeks ago you would have thought, had both his legs amputated, basically at the hip. Derrick Henry, 31 years old. We all saw what he did to the Bills. 18 for 169 rushing. Get this is a real stat, 9.4 yard average. Every time he touched the ball rushing, he got basically 10 yards, 2 touchdowns. Henry is an absolute freak. I put out a tweet last night that he should be studied by science. Like, running backs typically drop off at 30. Again, Henry, 31, shows zero signs of slowing down with like a billion carries on his legs too. He was heavily used all throughout high school. He was leaned on in college, and he's been leaned on every year he's been in the pros. Like, he is not a low mileage runner. He is the opposite, and you could have fooled me. Demario Davis, 36 years young, 6 tackles, 3 assists, and got to some gaps in a hurry. Guys that old playing middle linebacker, again, a high wear position, should not move like Demario Davis does, still doing it. His counterpart that always gets mentioned in the same breath, and rightfully so, Levante David, 35, playing in Tampa, is in on 9 tackles and still getting it done in a very physical defense. Doesn't show any signs of needing to be replaced at all. Bobby Wagner, 35, led the Commanders in tackles. Zach Ertz, also on his team, 34, had the Commanders' only receiving touchdown. And we've still got Adam Thielen to play tonight. Adam Thielen's 35, and I imagine he's going to be a heavy part of the Vikings game plan in week 1. Again, not a great strategy overall, but it's kind of fun in week 1 when we can look at all these stars and watch them play like stars. Check back with me in week 8, week 9, when, we're getting all the veteran days off for practice and guys are limping through it because, look, we saw it yesterday. It's an extremely physical game and only getting more so. Guys are bigger, faster. The hits are just as hard. But for week 1, kind of a shining moment, a little bit of fun.
I want to touch on Rodgers a little bit because, yes, he got lit up. So you're wondering, okay, how sustainable is this? But he got very little help by the Steelers offense in this one, and he still willed them to a win. Like we sung the praises of the Jets offense over and over and over again. It's like, okay, but did they win the game? No, they didn't because of Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
Like this is an offense whose running backs had more yards after contact than actual rushing yards because their average yards before contact was in the backfield. They couldn't run the ball. Broderick Jones was a disaster. Probably the worst game I've seen from Frazier as well. The Jets D-line tore them to pieces up front. If we're looking at true dropbacks, which they only had 10 because they knew they couldn't protect, he had a 50% pressure rate on true dropbacks. Was a sitting duck back there because he can't move. He's an older guy. And even if you're looking at, what was effective in the pass game, it was play action, play action, play action. Like 3 of his touchdowns were on bootlegs specifically to the right because he just still has that kind of crossbody flick to him that's deadly accurate. The other one was on a tap pass. So even though they couldn't run the ball, like they were still just using play action because we got to slow them down somehow. And they had like 170 yards after the catch. Like it was like the definition of an Arthur Smith offense, at least an Arthur Smith passing game. It's like we can't pass protect. We have one guy that might be able to win a one-on-one, and that's DK. And God willing, he's going to catch the ball if it's thrown his way. Calvin Austin's had his moments, but they were just getting it done through scheme and sheer force of will from Aaron Rodgers still having one of the best arms on the planet. Like, even though he's 40-something years old, like, he can still throw the hell out of that ball. Can't run like he used to, can't escape like he used to, but if he just has 2.5 seconds, like, he could still do a lot of damage, and we saw that. So, again, will the Steelers be able to sustain this the entire year? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Like, their run defense got gashed. They missed Derek Harmon a lot. Like, I know he hasn't technically played a real game in the NFL, but he could not possibly be worse than Loudermilk and Benton when it comes to stopping the run. TJ, I want to choose my words carefully here. 31-year-old TJ Watt is not 29-year-old TJ Watt. Right? Like, he's still an impact player. It's not the same. Cam Hayward, still an impact player. It's not the same. And Jalen Ramsey, again, he's an older DB. Statistically speaking, that is both the position group that gets injured the most as well as the age group that gets injured the most. And he's not exactly been a picture of health throughout his entire career either. So we'll see if he holds up. Like, it's an old team with some crucial personnel deficiencies. They won't be able to stop the run without their rookie getting back also from an injury. Like, Peyton Wilson also got erased in this game, which I know, cover your ears, EJ, he's one of your favorites, but like, he got destroyed. And then you factor in, okay, the offensive line can't pass protect and our quarterback can't move, and DK Metcalf, like, we don't know what we're going to get from him on a game-by-game basis. Like, they didn't play Caleb because they knew they couldn't rely on him for protection, so it was the Jalen Warren show. So it's like, what do we got here? And the answer is occasionally a really, really great day from Aaron Rodgers. And if we don't have that, we are fucked. like absolutely supremely fucked if Aaron Rodgers does not turn back the clock. That makes me nervous. It worked today. It really did. Is it going to work 16 more times this year? I guess we'll see.
Well, the wild thing is, you know exactly what they're going to get out of it, which is 9 wins.
They're going to get, they're not going to go below 500.
Never going to happen.
They're going to push for a wild card spot.
Yep.
They're going to beat the Ravens.
Because
they will. They just will.
Yeah.
Absolutely they will. And they're going to be a very, very solid football team that I am deathly afraid of what their injury report's going to look like in December. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. My second topic here. It's really a two-sided thing, because on one side, it's like, wow, Indianapolis Colts, 7 possessions, and they held the ball for almost 40 minutes. That's awesome. I don't know if I've seen that at the NFL level. I've seen that in like service academy games. I don't know if I've ever seen that in the NFL.
Oh, man.
They were 7 of 15 on third down, 3 of 3 on fourth down. Like they just controlled the ball the entire time. Daniel Jones had a nice day. Miami doesn't have any corners, so that probably helped. And they just ran and ran and ran and ran, and Miami couldn't get them off the field. And at the same time, the flip side of it is, beyond like, ooh, Colts good, Colts fun, the flip side is the Dolphins kind of suck. And you guys know me. I like to be positive on this show. I don't like to be like this, overly negative. And even in the summer series, I mean, I took the bait. You said I was taking the bait, and I didn't listen. And I said, no, I think they've invested a lot in the trenches this year, and like I think they're turning their identity around. No, the identity is worse. This is the worst version of the soft Miami identity. It's worse than I have ever seen. And like we've seen it fall apart before. I have never seen this team look like that in the Mike McDaniel era, and that is saying a lot. The lapse in cohesiveness, as in mental mistakes, constantly, the complete lack of physicality, the lack of effort, like that just looked like 53 dudes who knew that this season was already over before it began, and so they didn't even want to try. Like, is anybody playing for Mike McDaniel on this team? You could have fooled me. I saw absolutely zero effort in this game. Like the Colts, they came to play. Like they were honoring Jim Irsay, were honoring the big boss, and they came out foaming at the mouth. And Miami wilted from the jump. In 2 of Tua's first 4 dropbacks, he had turnovers. And like they folded immediately, like zero fight in this team. As soon as that happened, all right, see you in Cancun. It's rare that I have a reversal so stark in week 1, because we always caution against overreacting to week 1. I don't think this is an overreaction. I think even Dolphins fans know they're cooked. This was painful to watch, like truly painful to watch. Tua looked bad. The offensive line looked bad. The defensive line looked bad. The secondary looked atrocious. Tyreek wants out. They also probably want Tyreek out, but the financials make it hard to trade him. It's bad, EJ. And, Mike McDaniel plus 1,000 to be the first coach fired is now like minus 5,000 after 1 week. I don't know if that's the real number, but it probably should be.
Yeah, it was painful is the right word. And the only impression that I came away with after one half of Dolphins football that counted this year was house cleaning. Like
everybody gone. All
team looks like a team that is primed for house cleaning, and nobody seems like what you need to turn that around in an organization is exactly what you're talking about is fight for each other, for your coaches, for grit, for honor, for whatever you want. Right. But there was no fight in this team. And we both thought that they were approaching this by saying, hey, we need to get better at the things that we haven't done well, specifically running the ball and being physical late in the season. And they They did it personnel-wise, but it's like nobody bought it, right? It's like somebody put up the motivational poster on the wall at work, and everybody went, "Yeah, baloney. We don't believe that." And that's how it looked on the field. And instead, the actual response of Miami getting its game figured out, especially figuring out Miami's offense, was just to like fold in layers of complication that make it harder to execute. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot that way. And it does not feel, again, like there are any easy answers to this. This is foundational problems. This is root core stuff. And somebody said to me this morning, feels like Mike has become the second coming of Adam Gase. And I was like, ooh, okay. I hadn't thought of it that way, but now that I have, I can't unthink of it that way. And I just don't know what the ticket out is for this team besides like, hey, we tried all this. It didn't work. It all blew up in our faces. We're going to scrape the decks clean and start a true, not a reload. We're going to start a true rebuild, ground up. 60% of the roster is going to get changed in 1 year. You know, new GM, new coach, whole fret, like level the house to the foundation, maybe dig that up too, and start over on that piece of property. Like that level of urban renewal in Miami. And that is rare in the NFL. It usually doesn't bottom out quite that badly, but that was the impression. Now, is it going to stay that way the whole season? No. Teams can get motivated for all kinds of strange reasons. I didn't see any of that yesterday, and they're going to have to find not just a little bit of it. Like, they're going to have to find a lot of it.
And you know, I don't like being this guy, and you don't like being this guy either, that like calls for people to get fired, because I get it. Like, it doesn't feel good to say like this person needs to lose their job. They need to pull their kids out of school and move across the country to their next job opportunity in the NFL or college football or wherever they go in the football world. Like, I don't like being that guy that says fire this person. But I don't see a way for the Dolphins to become what they need to become under this regime. And that regime includes front office, coaching, probably quarterback at this point. And again, I don't dislike Tua, but we're paying you a lot of money to not throw terrible picks like that. Like, and you are. And again, I don't like being this guy, but at the same time, you have to understand from a fan's perspective, right? It's like, okay, I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm in South Florida. Like, I'm working in the brutal heat on a construction site, and all I want is to sit down on Sunday and have my football team not piss me off. Win or lose, just don't piss me off. Make my time worth spending, or make it worth me spending my time on this, investing emotionally in this team, investing financially in this team. Like, I'm just thinking about the perspective of an average Dolphins fan who the one thing they look forward to for 17 Sundays every single year is their team hopefully not embarrassing them. And that was embarrassing. So, yeah, it sucks to call for people's job. It's like, what about the other couple million people that emotionally invest in this franchise? Like, we need to at least try for them. And it doesn't feel like this team is trying. Like, it doesn't feel like the organization is trying. It feels like we had a bunch of smoke blown up our ass all summer. And then you actually get on the field and you see them play a real game. And, you know, there was the slight hints in the offseason when they had the joint practices where like, oh my God, this team's terrible. And we're like, okay, but it's a joint practice. Like, let's not over-index. And then we see a real game. We're like, oh my God, they're awful. What were you doing for the last 6 months? Like, this is what you show up with after 6 months. It's embarrassing. And I feel angry for Dolphins fans,
right?
That they waited months and months and months for that. Like, this was supposed to be one of the winnable games on the schedule, and you get that. It's
devastating. I remember this with Mitch Trubisky, and they ended the year strong, that double doink, and then they come back and it's like, hey, they've made more improvements, strong team. Progression's linear. They're just going to go up from here. Camp was packed. I was at training camp that year. They come out in the first Sunday and they get whooped by their division rival. And you're like, we might have a problem here. And sure enough, they did. And that ended up in regime change down the line because they just didn't have any answers. And when you look at this team, it's not like the answers are waiting. It's not like the guys are going to come back from the PUP list or, they're going to get guys back from suspension or whatever. And then it's going to work, right? You can look at the sum total of all the moves from this team and go, okay, what's going to pull them out of this hole? I don't think I have an answer to that right now. If it does happen, it's going to be something that none of us see coming and one of those miraculous turnarounds. And that is not, hope is not a strategy in the NFL. And they're going to run up against it this year. And yeah, that may result in big changes in Miami after this season.
I mean, one thing they can do is actually use their running backs in pass protection. This was something. So last night after the Sunday game, I was watching tape of the game because it came through. I was like, all right, let me watch these sacks and see what happened. And the first 2 sacks, I can tell Lou Anarumo came prepared because he attacked them in the exact way that always works, which is sending a DB off the edge. Why does sending a DB off the edge work? Because this team doesn't use running backs in pass protection because they keep drafting very small running backs. Alec Ingold is their best pass protector of the quote-unquote running backs, and even he only had 22 pass protection snaps all last year. If you're looking at the entirety of the Dolphins' backfield, they had the least pass protection snaps of any backfield in the NFL last year. Meanwhile, they led the NFL in routes ran out of the backfield. They used them as receivers. They use them to space out the defense and create room for Waddle and Tyreek and, tight ends and everything like that. And so Anarumo was like, all right, well, if they're not going to use their backs in protection, I'm just going to send a running back or a DB off the edge from the right side because Tua's back is going to be turned. Nobody's going to be there to pick him up. And even if it has to be a tackle that picks him up, okay, now we just got a tackle and a DB, which means we're taking a big body from you on a little body. That's a win anyway. So, the fact that they don't use their running backs in pass protection means they're extremely predictable and also extremely easy to beat in protection. And his 2 first sacks were DBs coming off the edge from his blind side. And then, this is even worse. When they finally, in the second quarter, did start using their running backs in pass protection, they put one on fucking DeForest Buckner, EJ. Why? We have 7 guys in pass pro against 5, and we're full sliding and having the running back take on DeForest Buckner at full steam because he ran through a tight end. You're making the tight end try to hinge DeForest Buckner, and so he runs through the tight end, and then you got a 5'9" running back looking like that Willem Dafoe meme staring up, and it's like, what are we doing? It was insanity. So not only do they not use running backs in pass protection, but when they do use running backs in pass protection, they put them on 300-pound DTs. Mike McDaniel, everybody, everybody's getting fired here. There is no way around it. Everybody's gone. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, because this is completely unsustainable. It's been unsustainable. The roster isn't there. The culture isn't there. The players don't look like they give a shit. Tua's been bad. McDaniel's been bad. Everything's bad. I feel awful for Dolphins fans.
It's the worst thing ever to go through the first week or 2 of the NFL season and basically say, well, see you at the draft. I just can't anymore because this team's, again, to your point, not going to put out for me. I'm not going to put out for this team. And, I just can't be invested for my own mental health, or I can just sit in front of the TV and get angry every Sunday at what they're doing wrong. And it's a terrible place to be. We've both been there as fans. And yeah, it's a rough deal for everybody involved because it's not like they're not trying, right? Those players are putting in effort. You've been in NFL buildings. It's tough when they're losing. And when you're losing and you don't have any hope, it's bad enough when you're losing, but you still think, hey, we can turn this thing around. When you're losing and there's no hope of that, it's rough.
Well, hopefully your third point is a splash of positivity.
I think it's somewhere in the middle.
AJ.
Yeah, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole of despair. Let's put it that way. I'm going to call it the curious case of Bo Nix. As you know, I watch all the games at once. I've got a couple of screens up. I've got 2 quad boxes. And on days like yesterday when there's extra games, I'll even use my computer to monitor on the desk so that I can see all the games at once. And I watched Bo Nix's start for the Broncos. And I even put out a tweet like, hey, Bo started off pretty sharp. And he did. 3 straight completions. I was like, he's looking good, right? Start watching other games. I look back in the middle of the second quarter. I was like, huh? What happened here? Like, he didn't even make it through the script. So he went 3 straight completions to start the game, 4 straight incompletions, then 4 more straight completions, but they're all really short. 6 yards, -1 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards. So it's Peyton trying to get him back in the room. Hey, we kind of got off track there a little bit.
It's Bo Nix stuff. Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're going to get you back on track here. And then the first interception happens. And I get it. There are terrible interceptions, and then there's just like, hey, you missed him. And he missed McCreary lurking on the cross. McCreary changed his momentum, made a very good play on the ball, but Nix missed him. It happens. It's not the end of the world. It's not just like, oh my God, what are you doing? It's like, I get it. You were trying to get it there. You were late. McCreary made a good play on the ball. Fine. Here's the next 3 Broncos drives. 3 plays, punt. 5 plays, fumble. 5 plays, punt. Then, here's where the hope comes in. He got a PI throwing at Sutton and then hit Sutton on the very next play for a 22-yard score. So essentially a 2-play TD drive right before halftime. That looks pretty good because touchdowns are hard to come by in this game, and it puts you up.
Oh, we're going to get to that after, EJ. That little the thing that set up that drive.
Right.
Anyway, continue.
As if nothing had happened. Come out from halftime and you think, all right, made your adjustments, you settled down, you got the adrenaline out. 2 plays in the third quarter, the second interception, which was not a good interception. Not explainable like the first one. No interceptions are great. This one was bad. Then 13 plays for 48 yards. That's correct. 13-play drive, made 48 yards of field position. They get a field goal out of it. Had 5 completions during that drive, but they're all under 8 yards. This is not even dink and dunk. This is just dink. Fourth quarter, 6 plays for 16 yards. Try doing that. Another field goal. So you're getting points. You're chipping away. I understand your defense is tremendous, but again, with all the hype on the offseason about how good the Broncos offense was going to be in year 2 of Bo Nix to go with that great defense, so far kind of sputtering out of the gate. Then 4 plays, 80 yards, 69 of them were rushing yards, to be fair. Touchdown. 1 6-yard pass in that entire drive. Turnover on downs. That's it. That's all the Broncos drives for the day. So they get the PI and the Sutton TD right before halftime. They get a huge run from RJ Harvey. Credit to him. Looked incredibly explosive. 80-yard drive. They end up getting a touchdown of that. Add a couple of other field goals. But overall, when you look at Bo's day, it was highly uneven. And if you only watched those first 3 or 4 passes, you thought, oh, we're good. We're solid. Right? And then it got really bumpy, up and down, and really, I would say, condensed and compressed. All of a sudden, all the impact from that pass game or that presumed pass game just went away. We're talking about 4-yard, 5-yard, 3-yard, 6-yard. It's just not the kind of impact plays. So overall, it's week 1. We're not going to over-index. We're not going to overreact, but there's some work to do. And Bo's got to be a lot more consistent and a lot more impactful for this team to reach their potential, which is sky high. Like, again, if Bo Nix starts hitting the stride he had at the end of last year, this team's going to be fine. So when you asked at the beginning if it was hopeful, yes, it's in the middle. This is not doom and gloom, but this is also, come on, crank it up. Like, get out of the week 1 doldrums and get to it.
Even though Bo struggled, he had 4 turnover-worthy plays in this game. That's most in the NFL in week 1. The thing that really annoyed me the most wasn't even Bo. It was Sean Payton, 4th and 8, up by 8. You're in field goal range. You're at the Titans 36. You're in Denver, so your field goal range is longer too. And 4th and 8 in that situation, you make what can only be described as a look at me call, right? We're running spear on 4th down, up by 8 when we can make it a 2-possession game with, let me look at what was on the clock, 1:05 left. They made it a 2-possession game at home, and you try to essentially pad your quarterback stats because everybody's crowding around the line of scrimmage. Try to pad your quarterback stats with a look at me call, and the pressure got there so quick that he actually didn't see a receiver running wide open, and he lofted it up because it's a deep post, and you got the over. The first, if there's no post safety, which there wasn't because they blitzed, you're supposed to throw the post. But again, because he was under pressure, he didn't actually see that the over was the one that was wide open. So he lofted it up, ended up incomplete, and all of a sudden the Titans get the ball back with a minute to go, and it's a 1-possession game, not a 2-possession game, because he didn't kick the fucking field goal, Sean. Like, you saw him at the end of the game, he looked like he saw a ghost because he's like, oh my God, I can't believe I almost lost. It's like, yeah, you did. And the only reason, by the way, that they were even up by 8 in the first place was because Callahan had an even worse day coaching. Which brings me to my third point. Again, this has been a very negative show for week 1, but like I had to talk about this because Titans fans were going to kill me if I didn't validate their feelings. The sequence that led to that 22-yard score at the end of the first half is one of the most baffling coaching decisions I have seen in quite some time. And again, that happened in the same weekend that John Harbaugh punted to Josh Allen. And this still might be worse. So I think it's like 48 seconds to go. Let me get the exact mark on the clock. So they're on their own 7-yard line. Second quarter, the Titans are. 47 seconds to go. They have timeouts, by the way. They have 2 timeouts. He calls 3 straight pass plays, backed up against his own end zone. He has a 6-3 lead. He could take a 6-3 lead going into halftime because, again, the Broncos offense was struggling. Bo was struggling, kept trying to turn the ball over. Like, his defense was playing his ass off. Has a 6-3 lead. Calls pass, and then on 2nd and 10, they call a screen where you had 3 guys blocking and nobody actually turning around to try to catch the ball. So something got screwed up there because this is a clearly very well-coached team. Receivers don't know who's actually supposed to be catching the screen, so everybody's blocking one guy and leaving unblocked defenders anyway. So Cam dirts it because he's like, guys, what are we doing? And then we get to 3rd down, and it's like, okay, they're just going to run the ball and punt. Nope, call another pass. And J.C. Latham missed the count and let the pressure get to Cam, and they get sacked on 3rd down. And then they punt it away from the 1, where the Broncos still have time. They get a PI, and then they score. So you had a 6-3 lead with 47 seconds left in the half, and you go down 6-10, and you never get the lead back. What the hell, EJ? Like, somebody has to help Cam Ward.
Yeah.
It's unconscionable that the Broncos won this game because of A, how poor the quarterback played, and B, the decision their head coach made. The only reason they did win is because their defense is sick, which we knew going into the year. Their defense was going to be sick. And Callahan somehow coached an even worse game than Peyton did. And there is no reason a team with the aspirations the Broncos have should be in a dogfight with the Tennessee Titans at home in week 1. But that's what happened.
That is what happened. And to be fair, the only person giving Cam Ward help was Cam Ward. He actually played. Yeah. He played pretty well in this game in terms of for what he was working with. You saw his superpower, which is escapability, the ability to extend the play, keep his eyes downfield, and then use that rocket arm. And he is going to need that apparently a lot this year, like a lot more than Titans fans want him to. And yes, it will create some highlights, but it's not going to win you a lot of games, especially when you're not playing sound, fundamental decision football, which is what you're talking about with Callahan. It's odd, but hopefully, again, Callahan, a fairly young head coach in this league, will look at what he did and have folks within the organization who have his trust and can say, hey, man, this isn't going to get it done. This isn't good enough. This put us in a very bad spot, and we never got out of it. If we get in that position or a like position again, you have to think about the longer game. You have to think about the swing, which was, in this case, 7 points, right? You could have gone in up 3, and instead you give up a touchdown and you go down, and to your point, never ever get the lead back because points are going to be hard to come by for the Titans. We know that. That's okay. But that means you need to be frugal with giving the other team opportunities to get them, because you're not going to be able to match anybody in a boat race. And you've just got to make better decisions. And you'd hope that a young coach would learn from this and go, yeah, I'm never doing that again. And time will tell whether or not that's true. If he does learn that lesson and continues to learn those lessons throughout this year, the Titans could reel off a couple of wins. If he doesn't, they probably won't.
I do want to correct myself. They did get the lead back for a few minutes because Bo threw an interception, and then the Titans mounted a positively dominant 4-play, 9-yard drive to get a field goal off that.
There you go.
So they were temporarily up 12-10, and then the Broncos went up 13-12. And then they didn't give it back. But still, the stat of the day for me, from a Titans perspective, 133 net offensive yards, 131 penalty yards. And they still technically were in a position to win the game at the end. Insane. Just insane.
Not a great matchup for I don't it's one of those games where I think everybody came away disappointed. Like Broncos fans came away disappointed because they're like, we won, but seriously, did you see what happened? We almost lost. And Titans fans came away going, we lost, but we could have been closer. Like, we were still close, and I'm kind of happy about that, but we could have actually maybe stolen one in week 1 when everything's still topsy-turvy. Again, week 1, NFL, a lot of weirdness, ton of great games. The morning slate was great. The afternoon slate was fun. We didn't even talk about Seahawks and Niners. We'll talk about that, coming up. We'll talk about both of those teams quite a bit. Good surprises, and then capped off with that Sunday night game, and we still have Vikings-Bears tonight. We shall see, but that is the NFL done did good for kicking off the 2025 season.
Checking in on the teams that we haven't gotten to talk about in either of the preview episodes or this recap show, we still, like you mentioned, we got to hit the Hawks. We got to hit the Niners. We'll probably do that when we do the preview show. We got to hit the Saints. We got to hit the Cardinals. They're coming up. We got to talk about whatever the hell happens in that Raiders Patriots game at some point. So we'll touch back on our friends over in New England, and then Carolina Panthers. Basically, the entire NFC South. We're gonna have to hit in the next couple weeks because that's shaping up to be a wild division.
Yeah,
and Falcons fans, I'm sorry that you had to lose in typical Falcons fashion. I wanted to touch on that too,
but it wasn't typical. That was the thing. It's the bizarro Falcons. They had a pass rush. Yes, some Falcons fans jumped in my mentions and said, well, only when we blitzed. And I was like, buddy, you would have killed for any pressure last year. Who cares how you get it? You got some. Be happy about it. But now they can't run the ball? I'm just like, wait, that's okay.
Apparently Caleb McGarry matters a lot, and so does Drew Dalman, EJ. Who knew losing
very strange
2 key offensive linemen would impact your run game against, check notes, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah.
Never going to have
again, we'll hit on all these teams coming up here. It's hard to hit on all 32 every single show, but we do our best to at least spread the love. We'll be back on Thursday. If there's any particular games that you really, really want us to hit on Thursday, I encourage you guys to leave those down in the comments below. Again, we tend to favor teams that we haven't talked about recently. So if there's somebody that you're dying to hear us address, there's half the league is a candidate for that. Leave that down in the comments below. I want to thank all of our executive producers for Bootleg Football over on the Patreon: Fitzy, Connor, Liam, Mike, Jack, Major, Owen, Patrick, and Spencer. All of you guys, we appreciate you once again for your support. And even for everybody who's not a patron, you are eligible, once again, to still vote on the Patreon for the Bootleg Shot of the Week, which we're also going to do on Thursday. So we'll see you in a couple days. And until then, later.